We tried hard to get Labor to act on negative gearing and soaring rent increases, but we couldn't get there this time.
I welcome the fact that this Senate has finally drawn a line in the sand.
And then last night at 8:30pm, Labor sent all of us senators the mother of all guillotines.
As the One Nation leader halted Senate business to move a motion, Independent Lydia Thorpe seen throwing the papers at Senator Hanson.
Senator Thorpe.
And storming out of the chamber with this gesture.
If that is not racist, what is it?
An equally contentious social media ban on under 16-year-olds, contentious with many in principle and with many on the details, will also go through with coalition support.
I could summarise my remarks simply as what Jackie said.
Hello everybody, welcome back to the Ozpol Chats podcast, the show where we try to make sense of the madness that is Australian politics. My name is Jack.
I'm Luke.
And we have reached a major milestone in the show. We've had more than one upload this entire year. So I think...
Congratulations, Jack.
Congratulations, Luke. So I think we've done pretty well for ourselves, more than one video in the year.
Take that, Florida man.
Yeah, take that, Florida. But I think stupid name was. Jesus Christ. No, but I will say, though, I really did like... I will have to say this one thing, though, as this is a bit of a fact check for myself. There was one comment below by the name of Apollo. So originally I talked about the same-sex marriage plebiscite and how it got like 99% of the vote or 95% of the vote. And it actually turned out to be 61.5% of the vote actually got the yes and no. So it was actually a little bit more closer than I thought it was. So
embarrassing for you.
That's embarrassing. No, but that was. But thank you so much for Apollo for the comment, and that was really good. So I actually didn't realise. So
so you know, make an educate.
Love a good fact check. So I think we've got a lot of things.
So can I just say we're not industry experts. They don't take what we say as gospel. To the gentleman who watched 17 minutes, but then and I copy and pasted this into Word. I think it was 691 words here. Anyway. You know, we're just a couple of dudes talking politics. Just, hey, let's see it.
Especially American. I mean, I don't know too much about American politics either. Like, it was just kind of the thing that we kind of...
we were chatting. That's it. Just having a chat. Ozpol Chat.
Ozpol Chat. That's the name. But we've got a lot to get through in... Well, I think we will be in a good time. So, obviously, we had 36 pieces of legislation that the Labor Party tried to get through, tried to steamroll through in the last few weeks of Parliament. And 32 of them managed to get passed, and there were heaps of them. You know, obviously... there were changes to the Reserve Bank board structure in one of them. There were immigration laws that were passed, which included new deportation powers, travel bans and confiscation powers, child care workers getting a 10% pay increase, and all of that.
Go back to thinking about the immigration stuff.
I think, it's interesting because it's one of the new detention powers that they have, or the confiscation power that they have, is mobile phones confiscated from detention centres. So anyone who is in a detention centre, they now have the powers, or the police have the powers now to confiscate phones and whatnot, because they are, concerned that those
invited that were in prison for all those years, and they had mobile phones, but they couldn't confiscate.
Yeah. So, and obviously there was a bit of backlash from a couple of different human rights bodies that stated that there was it was a violation of human rights by taking away people's means, pretty much their only means of communication on those islands. So. It's I don't like it per se. I don't like the ability to confiscate devices off civil limits. Well, especially for people who are in detention centres. I think practicality wise, it's not a very good policy, and neither do I think it's a good policy in terms of civil liberties, human rights, like you said before. So. What do you think? I know you'll be in glee about this. That's it. The Greens managed to capitulate, and
they did. Yeah, no, I'm very happy
about housing and all that stuff, because that was originally something that Labor wanted to put through the Future Made in Australia Fund, and the Greens have been blocking it on all counts and whatnot for the longest period of time. Now they finally capitulated. What do you think about the Greens finally giving Labor the go with this legislation?
I think that there are merits in some of what the Greens wanted to do, why they were trying to drag Labor's heels on supporting them. But I am glad they finally came to the table, because it's something. I mean, obviously housing is a very big problem in this country, and while I disagree with the Greens on a lot of things, because I think that their policies are too extreme without the means to really just implement them, I do like that something was done, but I think that Labor could have gone more with the Greens on this one. I think that, again, I do agree with Dobby. There are a lot of merits into what the Greens wanted to accomplish with their housing, with their version of the housing bill. So I do think that it's a very slim housing bill. It's great for Labor because they can take that to the election. They can say, well, we've delivered something for housing. We've delivered more than what the coalition wanted to do. We've delivered something. We're alleviating the crisis. But yeah, again, I'm not too gleeful, to be honest with you. I think that the Greens are right on this one. I will say I'm glad that they lost their seats in Queensland.
Lovely. Yeah, Labor took the seats back from, well, that was the thing, in the state election, they took the seats back from the Greens. So it was the opposite of a Green slide in Queensland. So yeah, I think that really does embolden Labor to a certain degree.
But I think what I do find sad is Amy McMahon lost her seat at South Brisbane when she stole off Jackie Trad. I do find that sad because I don't know if you know this, but I think it was a car accident or something. She was actually quite injured for a lot of the past year, and so which obviously affects her ability to campaign and present out the voters.
Yeah.
So I do think that is sad because I'm not let's put this on the record. I'm not a big fan of the federal Greens party. Queensland Greens, fine. Don't mind them at all. I think the Greens are great on a state level. I just think that they're a party of ideals and utopia on a federal level. I just think that they want to do some amazing things on a federal level, but to the reality, I don't think that they have the reality to deliver on what they want to do.
Well, I think Max Chandler Mather came to that reality as well because he's kind of like the housing spokesperson, and he came to this realization a little bit on 7:30 when he was being interviewed by Sarah Ferguson, and he said that despite the fact that they want to get through those reforms, they want to, put stuff in the bill that they want to put it to, eventually he was just like, at the end of the day, and he got a little bit emotional, and so at the end of the day, he said, look, we are actually going to be holding back legislation. The more that we try to get what we want, the longer it's going to take to actually start building new housing for Australians and whatnot if you need to. So, he says that, every day that something isn't done about housing, he feels like it's failing him. So, I think that was a really emotional moment for him because he clearly cares about this a lot. And it's a really deep and core issue for him. So I think that was also partly one of the reasons as to why the Greens want to, put this forward to Labor. Because I also don't think they want to have that negative reputation of, well, you're just holding up Labor's plan, yes, and you're just constantly blocking them. You're blocking like all the time. And you're just delaying actual good policy that's coming through instead of, working with them in a productive way. And I think that's partly the reason why we saw the Greens, capitulate and actually work together with Labor to just get them through.
Yeah.
And
I think he would make an excellent federal leader one day. I think their party leadership is the biggest problem with and I know we're here talking about the Senate and stuff.
Yeah.
But I think the biggest problem with the Greens at federal level is their leadership because, the pillar of a strong democracy is an opposition who holds the government of the day to account. Now, the Greens aren't in opposition because obviously they have a handful of members, the coalition of the main opposition party, but they're still not in the government. So they still have a job and a responsibility to hold the government accountable. And why I always liked Richard DiNatale or
Richard
DiNatale, the last leader of the Greens, he was so human. He was a good politician because it wasn't just about attacking Labor or attacking the coalition saying, you're not doing this, you're not doing that. He was able to communicate what he would do. Whereas, and this is my problem, maybe the Greens are the party of ideals and utopia and it's the political reality that holds them back. But if we vote for ideals and utopia, then the reality changes, doesn't it? But what stops me from wanting to join the party of the ideals and utopia is the leadership. Adam Bandt comes out in every crisis or every moment of political opportunity and just attacks the government, which is fine. Attack the government, hold them accountable. But what would you do? It's great that you want to expand Medicare and you want to expand the NDIS and stuff, but can we do something other than just throw money at state policy,
Just yeah, I think as well, the Greens have also been a lot more on the attack from for this government as well, because they picked up all those seats in Queensland in the 2022 election as well. So I think they were really emboldened. They really did perform incredibly in the 2022 election. You know, they came from having one seat to now I think they have 3 or 4. So it's definitely something that I think that they saw the leadership style of Adam Band and they thought that that's working. And, you know, whether or not this is going to lead to the Greens losing seats in the 2025 election, whether or not they're going to continue to...
And it makes me
retain the seats that they already have.
Makes me so upset. I would want to vote for the Greens. I've been very critical of them, but because, you know, they're extreme, they're utopia ideals. But I would vote for them to change the reality so that we can deliver all these good policies and really change Australia for the better. But what really lets me down in that is after the federal election, Adam Band came out and declared a Greens slide, and it's not Queensland anymore, it's Greensland. It's got a land piece.
I forgot about that.
And then we've just come to our state election. I think, is there one Greens member in this new state parliament? I think it's one. It's either 1 or 2. It ain't many.
No.
To go from winning all those federal seats to now being in the battle of your life to defend them at the next one. Stop talking about how, oh yeah, Queensland's come around. Mate, you had 3, you won 3 seats in Queensland? You're now sitting MPs to deliver your message. Bring us to your side. Okay, people like me vote Labor. They're too afraid of the Greens because they think they're too extreme. Convince us you're not. Convince us that ideal and utopia can be achieved.
Yeah.
Get me on your side. I want to vote the Greens. I really do, Adam.
Convince me. You have got a potential Greens voter in a green shirt as well. You've got a Greens voter in potential Greens voter with a green shirt and green glasses. So
I do that, but green on the...
Yeah. I think what this really has shown, though, is that this popular perception that Labor's in bed with the Greens, Greens are in bed with Labor, is
so false.
It's so false. It's so false. They hate each other. Labor hate the Greens because they were getting in the way of actually getting them to deliver policy for pretty much the whole year this year, which is, I think, partly due to the reason as to why we had 36 attempted pieces of legislation trying to pass through.
Yeah, but I suppose at the end of the year, though, with the last sitting, they always try and get a lot through. I mean, I don't think that it's kind of been... I know you're saying that, but I don't think it's the Greens dragging the platform and then Labor's agenda.
Yeah.
You always see this every year, the last week of Parliament. They try and ram a whole bunch of stuff through, particularly the year before an election.
Yeah.
So that's why there's so much through. That's why they're trying to, you know, we're going to take 20% off X. We're going to give more. And if we get in, we're going to axe it even more.
Yeah.
We're going to give more money to childcare workers. Yeah, we just took some civil liberties away for some refugees. Don't worry about that. You know, mate, at the same time,
yes,
we can do all these other things. We've got housing, you know, don't worry about the civil liberties stuff.
On that note about leaving a further reduction of HECS debt to the next election, I still think it should have just all been one package. It shouldn't have been, you know, okay, we're going to pass through 20% HECS debt legislation now, but we're going to do it further in the next election. Why not do it now? You know, especially when the cost of living is one of the biggest concerns that voters have, especially for uni students and Gen Z, which is currently the demographic with the most amount of debt out of all generations, millennial, boomer, and what's it called, the silent generation, or
Greatest generation,
Gen X, yeah, and Gen X, they've got the highest piece of debt, so they're going to be most affected by student debt and student loans and all that stuff. So yeah, what were you going to say before?
I have no idea. You were talking. I don't think I was going to say. I think to be honest, I was listening to what you were saying.
So I think as well, we had one also very interesting development. Labor originally wanted in this 36 piece of legislation to be able to cap foreign students on universities. I can't remember exactly how much they wanted to cap students, but they wanted to have a certain cap on foreign students entering Australia on student visas and then attending university here and whatnot. But the coalition ended up actually opposing that, which is weird in my opinion. It'd be the other way around. So why do you think the coalition ended up deciding to make this decision to oppose something that normally they would probably be in favour for? What would be the political calculation there?
It's probably them trying to move back to the centre. I said it last week or whenever we recorded last, I said that's why they're moving on nuclear power but not renewables, because they lost the climate vote. So I suppose opposing foreign student caps, maybe that's more of the youth vote, which they're criminally lacking in.
Yeah.
I don't know. To me, that's not really something that blips on my radar. I would support the coalition in this one. I don't believe in capping foreign students. I think the way that Australia is, we're always going to need to outsource labour and education. I think if people want to come in and study and pursue a better life in Australia, why can't they? I mean, there's still room for Australians to go to tertiary education. It's not like we're losing spots to international students. We're not looking out for our own. International students pay an exorbitant amount compared to what domestic students pay.
Absolutely.
I don't think and I see all these, and I know this is such a tangent now. After the British election, I see all these like just awful TikToks about, they're played to like hard edits of like slowed ABBA music and stuff, and it's like the Muslims are coming into the country, and now we've got mosques going up, and they're in our education and our education systems, and yet I just think, shut up. It's God.
Yeah, well,
to me, foreign student caps, I just don't understand why they're a thing. I don't. Universities, particularly in Australia, have nearly gone broke after COVID. They're trying to get all their money back after all those government bailouts.
Yeah. Well, and even then, like, it's already hit the university sector, especially considering a lot of universities. And this was even an issue like 5 years ago as well, or possibly even longer, where, the amount of foreign students, English language requirements being waived and whatnot. This was the four corners that they did 5 years ago on it, but it was they were waiving English language requirements. They were accepting more and more foreign students, and because they know that that's where the majority of the income comes in. That's where it makes the universities the most money. Which, fair enough. If that's small, that's where it has to go. But I feel like that with this shift in policy, well, it was going to shift, but, it didn't. Well, it's still past, I think, the foreign student cap. But now with this foreign student cap, I think universities are now going to have to start changing the business model a little bit more to be a bit more sustainable, and especially to try and attract people that are here already to try and go to university instead of having to all of these international students come. Which, by the way, it's not to say that, like, obviously, that I don't think, I think the more international students, the better. Obviously, that's what makes university so great, is that you can you can study with anyone from all over the globe, and it's a much more, it's a super inclusive environment, and it adds to the diversity of views, and I think that's fantastic. But I do think universities have become a little bit too reliant on international students to be able to get any funding. So,
but I also do think that is the way of Australia. It is kind of in our culture. I mean, I know for many, many people that I'm friends with, and even myself, I'm the first person in my family to go to university.
Yeah, same.
There's heaps that I know of. I mean, I think now there is a lot more people that do want to go to uni. But if you think of the people that want to pursue trades and go into TAFE, just go on the workforce. I mean, my parents finished high school. That was it. They didn't go on to do uni. They didn't, they went on to do their own trades and pursue their own careers. Uni isn't the be-all, end-all. You don't have to have a bachelor's. I mean, I suppose the world's becoming more globalized. That's a different discussion.
Yeah.
So there are probably more things you would need a degree for now. But in Australian life, I just think still it's just the way we are. It's, you're always going to have more international students than domestic students. That's just the way that I think it is.
Yeah, and it's the more that our world, again, becomes globalised.
That is, like you say, though, they are too reliant on international students.
Yeah, for this funding. So, but I also think, I mean, I don't have a real good way to segue into the next topic, but in one of those bills as well that was trying to go past, we also had the social media ban, a world first, trying to ban anyone under the age of 16 from accessing social media. So sites like Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and all of those other pieces of social media. There have been some websites that were discarded from this ban. So we had YouTube, and then a couple of different messaging apps like WhatsApp and Line and all those other different apps that aren't no longer part of that ban. What do you think about this ban? And I guess, do you think it's actually practical and counts? I think it's going to be cheap.
Idiotic policy. I think the merit of the policy of trying to keep our kids safe online, great. Yeah, terrific stuff.
Absolutely.
The way that, they've tried to bull in a China shop it through to get it through the next election. And again, it's one of those things we're approving Australia. But I've listened to an interview, and I think it was Matt Canavan asked in the Senate inquiry to one of the Labor people. He said, is Snapchat's not in the ban? And the Labor guy went, oh, actually it is. And Matt Canavan went, well, but it's not a messaging. Oh, but no, it is. We're putting it in the ban. And Jackie Lambie said, we don't have enough time to debate it. I think that's the misinformation bill, actually. That's a different thing. But a lot of people were criticising a lot of the bills and, we don't have enough time to debate it. We're shoehorning it through. I mean, I was on Facebook at 13. And I don't think that it's practical. I don't, to put the onus on social media companies that they have to, take reasonable steps.
Yeah.
It's the way of the law. It's anytime you leave someone to self-regulate, it's not an effective policy.
No.
And I remember, there's going to be all the AI photos and stuff to determine if someone actually is, above the age of 16 and, is that going to be part of it? Are they going to mandate companies to? I think that it's very impractical. I think it's a great idea of trying to keep young people safe, keep them off the internet, but, to stop them from being exposed to things that they shouldn't be at that age.
Yeah.
Especially when you've got all these experts saying the bill's not going to work. It's just policy, something they can campaign on come the election.
Well, especially the amount of time that experts were actually able to submit submit complaints about the bill or to be able to read it. I mean, they were given a consultation time and for less than 48 hours to be able to read through the bill, to be able to write up their repudiation, to write their refutation to it, or to be able to pick out the pieces where, this part might work or this part might not work, and all of that stuff, and all their criticism, right? So again, this is another part where I'm disappointed in the government for taking a Liberal Party move and shoving through a piece of legislation and pretty much not giving enough consultation time, not giving adequate consultation. And I think just overall, I don't know why this has been such a huge focus, especially when at the next election, it's going to be cost of living. It will still be cost of living. It was cost of living in 2022. It's still going to be cost of living now. And we've now seen the trend globally that incumbent governments are not doing very well in terms of polling. They've either been overthrown.
The incumbency effects is wearing off with the cost of living crisis. It's just the way the world trending.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, we saw that in the United States. We saw that in the UK as well. I mean, there were a whole bunch of different reasons in the UK.
A lot of different kettle of but yeah, that's still part of it.
Yeah, so the incumbency effect, like I said, it's not
not as relying upon it as much.
So I think in terms of during a cost of living crisis, I think there should be other things that should be the focus, and not necessarily a social media ban that may or may not be effective. And then plus, also too, got to consider the facts that there's always a way around these things. You've got VPNs, you've got, like you said, you've got you can use FAC IDs and whatnot. Who knows what all of these individual social media companies are going to do? Their reasonable steps and what they're going to be to prevent under 16s from accessing social media. But then you've also got this whole other kettle of fish where all of these social media companies have had very dodgy histories of storing personal data, keeping it safe, making sure that it doesn't get compromised and not, and then selling the data as well. So again, they're going to have even more information on us. And then there was already some backlash from a couple of different, I think a couple of different politicians, and the public also brought it up too, that, I don't want to be handing in my driver's license into Facebook, or I don't want to be giving my government issued ID. So the government ended up ruling out the government issued ID, but now we're just left with even more questions of, well, how are you going to adequately say that, okay, this person is who they say they are, and just some put on the campaign posters. That's what it is. And I understand, look, the heart is there. I get it.
Yeah, the heart's there. The idea, the merit of the policy is there, but it's again, it's implementation. But it's my word of the day today, implementation.
It's going to be very interesting to see how this goes. And again, I think this whole world first notion as well might be used also as, kind of an excuse if things go wrong.
Yeah.
Right? So,
I think it's a great thing for the coalition to criticise, calling it the world first, and then just how, if it goes bad, how badly they watch the world's first ban.
Yeah. So, and again, they might be able to say, well, look, this is the first time in the world that this has ever been done. So, we've had some teething issues with the policy and whatnot. So, again, we're not really going to know until this policy is going to be in effect, and there's going to be a whole year from now for social media companies to comply and all that other stuff. But I guess any final thoughts on the social media ban?
It's the merits there, implementation's not. Next.
And then we finally got the Senate chaos that has been going.
The Senate.
The Senate's already a crazy place, but we had Senator Fatima Payman have a brawl with Pauline Hanson, and again, if you're thinking that Senator Payman is the same person that said to all the Sigmas of Australia. She did say that.
Watched on my set. Oh my God, I cringe.
Yeah, to all the Sigmas of Australia, this goofy R government. She did the whole...
No, I saw her, Jack. I saw her.
I unfortunately saw it too. But so, I mean, this all came about because Pauline Hanson was trying to put a motion to Senator Payman, to basically put a motion to Payman to send her to a committee on the basis of her holding a dual citizenship, and which would mean that she would be an ineligible member of Parliament if it was found that she had a dual citizenship to the Parliament.
So that is a fun fact. If you didn't know that, you can't be a dual citizen. You have to be a sole citizen of Australia to sit in government.
That's right. So what do you think about Pauline's motion? Payman's response? What was your thoughts?
Without being defamatory, I think it's just Pauline being Pauline. It's just division, it's just riling up. I mean, I can't remember her Payman's exact story, but I believe she lived in one of the Hezbollah-controlled territories. She didn't have a birth certificate or whatnot. I mean, to me, the fact that someone could come from a war-torn country, come to our great country, want to serve in government, represent the people, do their best to serve the people, that's the promise of Australia.
Yeah.
That makes me proud to be Australian. If you are against that, then you are against the ideals of Australia. To me, I think that it's just, that's Australia. Be proud of that story. And for Pauline to be against it, to, try and get her ruled ineligible, I think that it's very encouraging that Queensland resoundingly voted against One Nation.
Yeah.
I think that it goes to show that Pauline's platform, although she's, it's been hanging on for years and years, a bit smaller every year, I think it's finally starting to wane.
Yeah.
Really great.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just, I know this is a whole different debate. It's hate speech, free speech, can't police hate.
Yeah.
But I just think, there isn't that kind of place for that in Parliament. I think that's just off.
Well, she also lost the defamation case against Senator Faruqi. Well, Faruqi won the defamation case when she told her to piss off back to Pakistan. So, obviously she tried to appeal it, and I think the appeal failed. So in terms of awarding damages and whatnot, the appeal failed. So I think, look, at the end of the day, I completely agree. It also just goes to show as well that in the Australian identity anyway, that anyone can be Australian. Senator Payman, who, obviously came from Hamas-controlled territory, Hezbollah-controlled territory, and was able to perform. I mean, that is just the most...
It's not the promise of Australia.
It's the promise of Australia, but it's just not it's the Aussie battler type of stories there. And the app has to be applauded, and that has to be, I guess it has to be applauded. It's incredible. And, despite, I don't agree with her using the term, the Sigmas of Australia and all that.
Just a little blemish on the record.
Just a little blemish on the record. And also in the parliamentary Hansard forever. So it'll be like in 30, 40 years, we'll be looking back at the parliamentary Hansard to read that transcript. You'll be able to read the transcript back in Canberra, and then, because those were the first time those words were actually used in the Hansard. And it's got over 4 million views. If you haven't watched it yet, then, you're living under a rock. Rocket of Cupid living under. But and then we also, in the same Senate debate with Payman, Lydia Thorpe also took Hanson's motion, ripped it up in front of her, and then thrown the paper.
She's always, I'm just thinking about how to frame this so I don't accidentally vilify somebody or a certain community.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people, we're going to cut this in.
That's right.
My thoughts on Lydia Thorpe. I've never been a real fan. She has consistently said, if you don't agree with me, you can't stand to see a black woman in Parliament. That's not why I don't like her. I don't like her because I just would like her to represent the people that voted for her. I just think that, how many times has she been censored? I swore on the King's hairs. That kind of discussion. And, I suppose if you want to have a wider discussion about colonialism within Australia, colonialism within the Australian Parliament, start that conversation. I always believe that if you want to bring people to your side, you can't attack the position that the people need to claim. we haven't had a referendum on it in a long time. But we voted to remain a part of the monarchy. And I'm not saying, I'm not trying to start a debate on republicanism. If you're going to attack the monarchy, you need to come and say, well, wouldn't you want to be in a republic where all Australians, white, black, male, female, stand as one? We have our own Australian head of state, not I swore on the king's hairs, family of criminals and all that. I just, like she just gets censored, like she's censored in the parliament, and she's so proud of it. I just think Lydia Thorpe could be such a good politician, and it kills me. And she's fighting for what she believes in. But again, it's reality. It's just, you can't, I don't know. I honestly don't know how to phrase this. But I hope that you and other people know what I'm trying to say. It's just, I'm not saying she needs to compromise her beliefs because she is black. She's proud. She's a woman. She's proud. I just think that the way oh God, how am I supposed to say that, saying that the woman needs to be quiet? I think that she needs to hide.
I think it's more, she's trying it. Like, it's the idea of,
I wish she was better at inspiring people. That's probably how, I don't know how to phrase it. That's the best way I'm going to come. Yeah, that's it.
Well, I think it's just more, she phrases, or she talks about things.
She's known for controversy, not opinion. No matter what it is.
Yeah. So obviously I
want her to be known for her ideals rather than headlines of why she's been ejected from the parliament, why she's done this, why she's done that.
Yeah, in terms of like her actual productivity in the Senate, and like her contributions to voting, and then her contributions as well to actually changing legislation and whatnot. I'm not too sure how well she's performed in that field, but you don't ever hear about how well she performs in the Senate. You hear about, like you said, all the controversy, and the accomplishment. Yeah. So, and I also didn't like the fact that she was, I hate to bring up the voice again. I know I hate to bring it up again, but even though she was advocating for a no vote because she doesn't like any part of the monarchy, she doesn't want any part of like any institutions and whatnot. So, but she was also invariably on the same side as people who were trying to deny Indigenous peoples.
I'm going to let you go with that. That's a different discussion.
Yeah,
I've made my piece of the voice and said my opinion of it.
Yeah, so it's not, but like I end up like, she just ends up inadvertently being on the side of people that end up denying Indigenous people's rights to be able to have a voice and a say in Parliament, and then also people who have engaged in straight up conspiratorial talk about Indigenous people. She ends up invariably being on that same side as those people, even if that's not what she's advocating for. She's still assisting in that side and, saying like, oh, look, there's a couple of Aboriginal people who also disagree with that. And, I think that's where most of my issues with Thorpe come from, but also just the way that, I know that, and this is genuinely something that I do, I wouldn't say like admire about her, but I do respect, is that the fact that she's very much like, she says what she says in the Senate, she says what she says in Parliament, and I guarantee if I was able to talk to her in private, she would say exactly the same things. Like, there's no public persona of Lydia than a private, like, just from Lydia's looking at. Lydia is Lydia. And we're never going to be forgetting her anytime soon. But she also came back to the parliamentary viewing gallery after she was already left, and started shouting slogans and all that stuff too. So again, more on the stunt side and not really the progress side. Because what does that really come on?
Inspire. Let's go.
Inspire. But she was a Greens member too.
But independent now, isn't she?
Yeah, she's independent. Same with Payman, who was originally a Labor member, and she got ousted for.
Good on her for that too. I thoroughly believe in what she did. She thought that they were too soft on the Israeli-Palestine conflict, and the stuck to her ideals.
Yeah,
she would set on the prospect.
Yeah, she did the ultimate Labor sin and crossed the floor, which, according to the Labor Party's whole rules and regulations in regarding to crossing the floor and whatnot, their parliamentary rules, you're not allowed to cross the floor on anything. You have to vote on party lines. It's not like the Liberal Party where technically every vote is a conscience vote. No, even then.
Bridget Archer, she crossed the floor for ICAC. It happened.
Yeah.
there is floor crossing of the other side, just on like.
Yeah, and I think that's, I mean, it makes it, I think the floor crossing is good. It's good for a democracy that, like, yes, individual MPs can still have minds of their own and be able to cross the floor on things. But again, the whole thing with Payman, I think she was very much unfairly treated after she crossed the floor. Even though I know she like had headlines about it, like obviously it was going to make the news and it was going to make it look like that Labor had divisions within the party. They already had that perception that there was already a big divide in Labor between, you know, people who want more action on the Israeli-Palestinian conflicts and, you know, Albert and the faction where they wanted to play kind of not softball, but they wanted to be a bit more diplomatic in their relationship with Israel and all that stuff. So I guess it added to that perception, and Payman was the one that just had to go because of it. So
And made her fall on a sword.
yeah, made it fall on a sword. But, you know, do you think that Payman would get another Senate term in that regard?
So that's a good question. That's not something I've given a lot of thought to. What state is she from? Victoria?
Western Australia. Let me have a quick look at that, actually. I'll quickly fact check in real time.
Yeah, look, I would say if she was from Victoria, she's probably got the strongest chance of being elected. I don't know. I haven't really considered that. I don't. It depends on how hard Labor campaigns against her, which I think will happen.
Yeah, she's a Western Australian senator.
Okay. Well, I would say Western Australia is probably the second greatest chance of that. Yeah, I think it's possible. I think she'll get campaigned very hard against.
Yep.
But I think it is possible. She could win her seat back. So just as I hope the independent who won the seat in Sydney, I can't remember her name. She's the Vietnamese woman who was made to step aside as the Labor candidate so they could parachute Christine Kennelly.
Yep.
And then very rightfully, she won the election. Good on her. I'm glad she stood as an independent because Labor just wanted to parachute Kennelly in so she could be in the cabinet.
Yep.
And they just expected that poor woman to fall on her sword and say, oh yeah, we'll pitch another... No. I'm very glad she won her seat. So I do hope that the independents do survive. I hope that they do hold their seats in the next election. But that's a different story for another time, of course, different conversation.
Yeah, because I think obviously independents, they allow the government, well, they hold the government a bit more accountable, you know, instead of just having...
But it is very hard to be an independent in Australia. That's the way that our society works. So we vote. Yeah, to be an independent.
Yeah, I think it'll be interesting to see where the independent movement goes from there. But I think also Payman wanted to start her own political...
Yeah, I don't know if that's eventuated or anything. I don't think it did. I don't know whether she plans to approach it with a bit more vigour, but I don't see that going anywhere at all.
Yeah, and just as a last remark on Payman's speech in the Senate about, Pauline Hanson's motion, I think that, you know, obviously she spoke very passionately, and it was an attack on her, right? And she had it's interesting because the Labor Party already had legal advice in regards to her eligibility to be in the Senate or to be a member of Parliament. So they already had all that, and it was already all cleared. So again, I don't know why Hanson wanted to try and go after her.
It's just something to rile up the folks. It's just classic. It's classic tactics from her.
Yeah.
That's what I think it is. Just talking points. It's in the headlines. It's been in the headlines for a while. The party got eviscerated in Queensland.
They're just trying to gain relevance again, I guess.
Yeah.
But yeah, final thoughts on the Senate chaos of the last couple of weeks.
That's just our Senate. That's when it's been more than what it is normally. But I mean, that's the Senate to me. I think it's always got a certain degree of chaos.
Yeah.
Now, a week's a long time in politics. Yes, as we always like to say. But obviously, as we approach this time of the year and, you know, it's the last sitting week of Parliament, things start to wind down. But I do want to talk to you again.
Yes.
Because Queensland's adult time wars ended down. Chris Foley's gag order on abortion. And out of the news today, Jack, PNG's getting a NRL team. And there's a bit of federal government involved in a potential security pact to deter from China. So I think we're going to have a lot to talk about. One more time before we break for the new year, and the good folks get to listen to us blather in the new year.
Yes, absolutely. It's going to be really interesting to talk about like all those things. And yeah, no, I'm super excited to talk about, well, again, not to say the politics of the game, but it is interesting to talk about these things. And obviously my nerd hat comes on, especially at the end of the year when, again, everything is happening. So So yeah, but again, thank you all so much for listening in. I hope you enjoyed the shorter episode.
I don't think it's going to be short. I think it's going to probably barrel down to be a bit.
I think we estimated around about 30 or 45 minutes, so we might be.
I'll see what we're at. We'll figure it out.
When I'm editing the video, we'll see where we go. But yeah, let's do it. Thank you all so much for tuning in, and we hope to catch you next week. But until then, have a fantastic rest of your day.